hope you in the audience really listen and really write some very good questions so the candidates do have an opportunity to address some of your concerns. So here's the first one. Even though recent unemployment figures show Minnesota dipping a couple of percentage points, it's right now about 4.6. However, North Minneapolis, right here, SD 58, is currently experiencing double-digit unemployment numbers, about a little bit over 20%. If elected, what will be your three-point strategy to create jobs in the district? And I'll start with candidate Young.
My three-point strategy to create jobs is this. Number one, we need to work to connect people with the resources that are already there. One of the biggest downfalls that we see is that people that are seeking jobs and seeking opportunities can't get connected with the employers that are desperate to fill those jobs to thrive in this economy. The second thing we need to do is workforce development. We need to match the people or give the people the skills that they need to fill those jobs that are out there. And finally, my third point is I fully support Governor Dayton's plan to incentivize. Incentives are how people get things done, to incentivize employers to hire the unemployed.
Thank you. Candidate Boyd?
I'm David Boyd. My plan is to, one is get employment in the fact of we need to get businesses up here. Our communities are hurting because we don't have corporations or businesses to give our community work. We have a great resource along the river that we should be using for the green technology that the President has pushed out there for us. We need to educate our youth better. We need to take the money that we currently have as a surplus and pay the schools the money that we owe them and take the balance and put it away for a rainy day fund. Because we're going to eventually come into that point. You know, we're going to need this money eventually, so we need to put it away. And the other thing that I feel that's very important is we need to give these corporations a reason to come into our communities. We need to give them an incentive, some type of incentive. One of my plans, if I make it to the state office, is try to find a way that we can give a corporation that has green technology, or wants to bring green technology, and give them a 5 to 10% tax break over a 10-year period if they hire 25% of their staff within our community, you know, and maintain them for that 10-year period. Within the first 5 years, we give them 5%, and then every year after that, up to the 10-year point, we add 1 more %. But if they can't maintain that 25% of their staff within our community, we cut the funding for them. We cut that tax rate. Because the incentive is to get the people here to work, to give them a reason to move to our community. If we don't have the jobs, people aren't going to move in here. You know, we've got enough problems within the community. We need to get businesses that want to move in here, that want to get our people working. We've got a lot of skilled people. We have people who are skilled and unskilled, and we need to give them an opportunity to work. We need to not have all the empowerment on the near north area, and we need to bring it up here where there is no empowerment right now. We need to empower, you know, like Lindale Avenue. We need to make that grow. We need to bring more incentive to our housing up here because our housing is dying.
Okay, I'm sorry. We do have to stop you. Okay, because you get 2 minutes to respond. And also, what I want to do, just so you know, Rebecca is our timekeeper, Rebecca Younk. Okay, so really pay attention to the times, because I will stop you. Okay, because it's not fair to the other candidates. Also, I did forget to have you all introduce yourselves. Now, that's what happens when you know people. Okay, I'm just like, okay, I already know them all. And what we can do then, because I did forget the introductory part, what we can do is at your closing remark, reintroduce yourselves, and I will tell you what to say when we get to that part. Is that fair? Instead of, because you're right in the debate, instead of backing out once we finish this question and have you introduce yourself, we can have you spend more time with your closing remarks. It's up to you guys. In other words, you'll get 2 minutes for a closing remark.
You're the moderator.
Okay, you will, and you can tell us why you're running and all that other kind of good stuff that goes in a closing remark. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay, I do apologize. So, Jon Olson.
Thank you very much. You know, we have some great challenges here on the north side. We have some successes as well, though. If you look at some of the things that have happened here on the north side as far as bringing business in, we got Coloplast to come in on the riverfront, locate there, their international headquarters, and bring some jobs. Right down the road, we have Impact Mailing, which did a big expansion on their facility to bring some jobs into the neighborhood. We have the Park Board, which we located our office on River Road right next to Broadway Pizza. We brought 100 jobs into this community, as well as locating our park police there. Unfortunately, we have a lot of failures as well. Companies like Honeywell, they moved. Companies like Jon Olson that took their 600 jobs off the riverfront and went out to St. Louis Park, and that's a tragedy. We need to reverse that trend, and we need to attract businesses. David did bring up a great point. He alluded to the riverfront. That's one of our greatest assets, and it's going to be one of our greatest redevelopment tools to bring companies and jobs to North Minneapolis. We got to have a base. We got to start somewhere, and that is going to expand. It's going to grow. When you have those great amenities and those things there that attract businesses, it's going to grow. It's going to be a long process. There's no quick fix. It's going to take a lot of dedication, a lot of time, and a lot of resources to do it. On the second point, the education, educating our youth and preparing them to go into the workforce is essential. Businesses will locate here when there's a good core group of people that they can hire that will make their businesses successful. So educating our youth and giving them the tools to grow into those jobs is very, very important. On the third, I totally support Governor Dayton. I think he's a great leader. He's going to help businesses with those incentives to hire folks and create more jobs. So I'm very pleased that Governor Dayton is working hard on that. Thank you.
Candidate Marcus Harcus, do you want me to repeat the question?
Sure.
Okay. The question is, even though recent unemployment figures show Minnesota dipping a couple of percentage points, right now it's about 5.6, okay, so it's down from 6.7. However, North Minneapolis, SC 58, is currently experiencing double-digit unemployment numbers. It's around or about a little over 20%. If elected, what will be your three-point strategy in creating jobs in the district?
Well, I'm glad that you pointed out the disparity that's in North Minneapolis, because when you listen to NPR, they talk about that 5.6%. And if you peel back the layers of those statistics, we have the worst racial disparities in unemployment in the nation. For every one white person out of work, there's 3 African Americans who are unemployed. So I believe that we need to do some type of targeted jobs bill to address that. For some people, entrepreneurship may be their only option, so we need to do a better job of supporting small business startups. We need to remove some of the barriers for opportunities that a lot of people in our community face. There's a lot of people who are disenfranchised, and they suffer these collateral consequences for the rest of their lives, and that's just not fair. To address this disparity in unemployment, we also need to prepare our future workforce. So we need to just improve the quality of our schools. We need to provide job training for people who are underskilled, because most of the jobs today, 7 out of 10, require some type of technical training or higher education. And I agree with the others that we need to incentivize business development here in North Minneapolis. And the river is our strength, one of our greatest assets, and we have industrial areas that have room for more businesses, but we need to expand beyond that, more small businesses.
Okay. Representative Joe Muller?
Well, thank you. This is something I've been working on for at least a dozen years. And by the way, people talked about the governor's bill. I don't know if you've seen, I have 2 bills on unemployment issues. One is to add discrimination against the unemployed. If you've been unemployed, you would not be able to be discriminated when you go for a job. That's one of them. And I think the city council, I see Barb, I think you've already passed a resolution supporting that, I was told by your lobbyist today. The other one is to give tax credits. I had that bill in before Dayton came out with his, so for unemployed, hiring the unemployed. This is a huge issue, and the fact is our people of color on the north side are much higher unemployment ratio. I've been, about 12 years ago, I started working on the state and found that they were not even meeting half of the employment figures for people of color that we require of businesses doing business with the state. So I got on them, we got a guy from the East Coast to develop affirmative action program, then when Paletti came in, he destroyed it. Since Dayton's back in, I've been working with him a lot. Job training is an absolute necessity. By 2018, 70% of the jobs in this state are gonna require post-secondary, and a lot of ours, 40% of ours don't even have GEDs. So I've been working on a lot of job training. I'm on Hennepin Technical College Board. I've tried to work with the downtown business, as has Bobby Joe, I know, on getting some more on the north side. I was the one that have been carrying for many years the youth jobs bill for the city and for the park board. I really want more businesses on the north side, especially commercial, retail, and things for us, but that's not gonna solve the problem of unemployed on the north side. We need more.
Well, Representative Muller, I would like to do a follow-up question to that. You pointed something out in your response to the question, and here's another question, and we can do that. You guys got the rules ahead of time. And we will start with Representative Joe Muller and go back down that way. Do you think, and just be honest, do you think an emphasis on some sort of some sort of affirmative action plan, like enforcing it, will make a difference in decreasing our current disparity in unemployment?
Do I think enforcement? Oh, unquestionably. I've been really pressing for several years, the departments over to both. The state's the biggest hirer of employees in the state, and we have as I said, one of the worst affirmative action. I've been on them for years. They are now starting to, now that Dayton's in, they're starting to put in some of the things that I've been working on. I've been working a lot on targeted group businesses. I've had the administration and Minskew, and they're the two biggest as far as contracting, other than DOT, which has federal rules, and they're under those. We need the feds to enforce those. There's absolutely no question, I think, that enforcement is very important, and we have to get the Dayton administration to pass it down to the agencies to get serious on that. That's my view.
Thank you. And you do have 1 minute to respond. I just wanted to remind you all, just in case you forgot. And candidate Marcus Harcus, can you respond to the question? And again, do you think there needs to be an emphasis on enforcing affirmative action, which will hopefully decrease the current unemployment disparity that we are experiencing?
Absolutely. The Minnesota Department of Transportation is a huge employer, and they have these hiring goals for women and people of color, and they're very modest goals. They're like single-digit, percentile goals for hiring, but they're never met. Those goals are never met. And I understand that quotas are illegal, but the state has the power to deny contracts to these contractors who repeatedly are awarded the business but never meet these goals. So there needs to be more enforcement, absolutely. Not just paying lip service to it.
Okay. Candidate Jon Olson?
Thank you. Absolutely, I think there has to be strong enforcement, but I'll give you an example. Just in my own experience at the park board, we have a tremendous amount of diversity in our field staff as far as our maintenance and our seasonal positions. And that diversity is growing in our full-time maintenance operations and our field operations, but where we've had a tremendous challenge is in areas such as planning and finance and some of those other areas in the administration that are higher paying jobs and very good jobs. Again, part of the biggest problem is the lack of training and qualified applicants, because we're not putting enough emphasis on the training and giving people the tools to get those jobs. And the other place that we haven't done a good job at, that we are working on, is reaching out and making sure that folks know those jobs are available and getting them to apply. And the park board is making a renewed commitment to reach out and make sure that we're bringing folks in and letting them know to get them to apply.
Okay, thank you, Candidate Olson. Candidate David Boyd?
I love this question because I interned a year with the Department of Civil Rights here in Minneapolis when I was in college 20-some odd years ago. And one of the things I did was going to construction job sites, and I would check the amount of people who were there, you know, from minorities to other. And I can tell you, we have a problem. They don't have enough resources. They need more resources. They also need help. They need the employers to understand there's a law here, city, state, and federal, and you need to follow it. And if you don't, we shut you down. You know, we can't keep playing the games with people's lives. And that's what we're doing right now. We keep playing the games. They're not enforcing the rules, and we need people out there that's going to be willing to take that extra step and say, enough is enough. We need to help all our people, not just black, not just white, but everybody of color and otherwise.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. Candidate Dave Young?
I absolutely support this. The situation is far too dire for some of these people to start saying no to possible solutions. Programs such as this put a spotlight on places where we can improve. And saying no to that is saying no to possible improvement in the sector that needs these jobs the most. So I absolutely support this.
Thank you. Question number 2, and we will start with you, Representative Muller. Our district has one of the highest populations of reentry individuals. Last legislative session, the legislature approved significant cuts to public safety funding. If elected, what funding allocations, either by proposal or support, would you provide to ensure that this population receives the necessary services to prevent reoccurring offenses?
Well, if you check into it, I'm probably the leader on reentry issues in the legislature, so whoever put that in, thank you. We didn't cut reentry last year, but there was an attempt to cut public safety. We need to get serious about reentry. 60 to 80% we've found out of ex-felons have either mental health or chemical problems. And if you checked into it, well, for instance, I got the award Legislator of the Year from the National Alliance on Mental Illness because of my work on these issues. We need those programs. We need job training, but we even need more. A lot of the people don't even have a GED. We need to have more money for supervision because to keep these people from drifting back, we need a lot more help with working with the families. We need outreach workers with the families. We need job placement people who specialize in the issue of placing ex-felons. It's a totally different thing. When I was talking to the new hub for reentry down here, the 3 placement people, none of them even thought of some ideas that I had. We don't have people who are experts on placing them. So we need to take this really seriously. When the new commissioner, Tom Roy, when he first took office, his first day, he called me within an hour of being in office. And he asked me what I wanted him to do. And my 3 issues were reentry, juvenile justice reform, and concentration of sex offenders up here. And number 1 was reentry.
Okay. Well, thank you, Representative Muller. Candidate Harcus? You want me to read? I can repeat it. Our district currently has one of the highest populations of reentry individuals. Last legislative session, the legislature approved significant cuts to public safety funding, which would impact this group. If elected, what funding allocations, either by proposal or support, would you provide to ensure that this population receives the services necessary to prevent reoccurring offenses?
Well, one of the most important things that we can do is to stop incarcerating people who are in prison because of drug addictions and mental health. That's not going to rehabilitate them. They need to be placed in proper treatment facilities. And another thing is we need to invest heavily in juvenile diversion, because once we send these young kids into prison, that's like criminal college. So we're conditioning them for careers in crime. So juvenile justice diversion, proper treatment for people who suffer mental illness and drug addictions. And we have to make sure that there's opportunities, because when people come out of prison and they can't find housing and they can't get a job, what do you expect but recidivism? If 2 out of 3 people are going back to prison, it's generally because they're starving, they're suffering, and there's no opportunities for them to become responsible members, contributing members of society.
Okay. Commissioner Jon Olson, he's Park Board Commissioner, but candidate Jon Olson.
Thank you so much. You know, it's a very complex problem. Certainly, we have to deal with reentry, and we need to make sure that there's opportunities there, there's supervision, there's guidance, there's support services. But it really comes down to breaking the cycle. And instead of constantly revisiting incarceration and putting people back in prison and just this long cycle going on, again, we need to invest in the root of the problem. And we need to go after the youth, and we need to provide the foundations for success for them. As your park commissioner, we worked hard on this subject. We received a $500,000 federal grant where we've taken that money. It's for gang intervention, and we're dealing with kids that are on the edge of going down that road of a lifetime of crime. We're investing the money, the resources, the mentors, in getting them back to a sense of self-worth and being a productive citizen and seeking out a good life. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. We can't be at the back end all the time, figuring out how do we deal with these problems and just continuously deal with it. We have to get at the root. At some point, we have to invest those resources and really tackle the problem where it starts. So I think that's one of the biggest things we can do, and I certainly support public safety and making sure that our streets are safe. Wonderful community. There has to be a balance.
Okay, thank you, candidate Olson. Candidate David Boyd.
This is one thing that I believe is very important. Is I have an employee that works for me who is a felon, and he's been with me for 7 years. And we were talking about this earlier. And what's important is hope. If you don't give them hope, they're going to reoffend. You've got to give them hope. You've got to let them know that, hey, we're going to give you the training. We're going to give you everything you need to make it back in the world. We need to give them a second chance, because what's happening is we're doing, over and over and over, we're rotating them back in. They get busted for selling drugs. Then maybe next week, or a month from now, they can't make a living because they can't get a job. No one's going to hire them. So what they do, they go out and break into a house or break into a car. So we need to give them hope and a reason why, they want to be a part of our society. Because they're going to gladiator school. That's what, people in the neighborhood tell me what they call St. Cloud State, gladiator school. As John said it earlier, it's over and over and over again that we send them back, they're getting more training. They're becoming stronger and stronger on what they're doing. So we need to give them hope, we need to educate them, and we need to get our employers out there to say, just give them that opportunity. If you give them an opportunity and a sense of worth, then I believe that we can start to change the problem.
Okay, thank you. Candidate David Younk.
My campaign has, as part of our platform, a Safe Streets initiative. And part of the Safe Streets, how that ties into the reentry program, starts before any crime gets committed. We need to invest in programs to give people alternatives to crime, to let them know that there are other ways than doing that. But when it does happen, we will be tough on crime, but when it comes to reentry, we need to have the 3 issues that we're going to address are, number 1, if these people have addiction or mental health issues, we absolutely have to treat them or they're going to reoffend because of that. Number 2, we have to provide them with the training so that they can find a career, so that they can find an honest livelihood going forward. And number 3, we need to put a support system in place. These people are coming back into society with a different set of rules now, and we have to make sure that they are offered the guidance, that they have the support, that they can stay on a good path, so that they become a good and productive member of society.
Thank you very much, candidate Young. The next question, and I will begin with Candidate Jon Olson. A couple years ago, the Weber Camden community celebrated the 100th anniversary of the Weber Park Library. Currently, the plans to build a new library have been put on hold. If elected, how would you go about moving the development of this project, which is very serious to this area, forward?
Well, that's a great question. And as your park commissioner, I've been working for the past 9 years to get the funding in place to redo Weber Park. And we just recently went through a process of community engagement, a 3-day design charrette for Weber Park, and how we could repurpose the swimming area, make sure that we have a new experience, a new swimming experience for the folks in Weber Camden and really all the north side. We've got a great plan, and in that plan, we left the library where it's at. We also left space there that if the county wanted to build a new library on that site, they would be more than welcome to do that. I met with the county commissioners. I pulled out the maps. I told them anywhere you want to build this library on park land, pick your spot, you got it. We'll move forward on it. It is extremely important that this project get done. It's a great asset to the community. I think a new library will be of great benefit to everyone in the entire area and really showcase this part of North Minneapolis, along with the great plan that we have at Weber Park. I hope everybody looked in the North News and took a look, and if you have any comments on it, please let me know, or questions, please let me know. But it's an exciting development. It's really gonna be a big anchor to getting development done. So I've been working with them and encouraging them to build it. It's the county's project. We can't force them to do it, but we can offer suggestions, alternatives, and encourage them to do it, and I've done that as the park commissioner for North Minneapolis.
Thank you, Candidate Olson. Candidate Boyd.
You know, the library is, about a year and a half ago, I recall reading it in the news and everything about how we lost $2 million on the library because the park board, between the park board and the county, they were dragging their feet. And every year, we're losing more money.
It's not true.
We need to make a decision on where we're gonna put the library. Are we gonna build it on the park board facility, or are we gonna put it at the old Super Value Kowalski's area? Or as, when I spoke to John about a year ago, we talked about, I mentioned the service area, and he said that would be a good spot, or over here on the corner of Old Oxhill Road and 49th, there's the old horticulture center right there. That would be a perfect another spot to where we could put it and people could come. But we need to first figure out where we're gonna build it. And between the park board and the county, they need to decide what they're gonna do. I personally would try to give them more of an incentive, as John's doing. He's more of an expert at this, so I mean, I guess I would defer it back to him and back to the county and the park to try to figure out what they need to do to fix it.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Marcus Harcus.
Well, I think that our representatives need to do a better job of making a more compelling case about why the young people and the people in our community need these type of assets to develop their minds and engage them in positive activities. I think another big issue is we need to address the inequitable tax structure in our state, which has the lowest income earners paying a much higher percent effectively on their local and state taxes and leaves the wealthiest Minnesotans off the hook. That's my answer.
Okay, thank you. Representative Joe Muller.
Well, this is a difficult situation. I certainly want it done. I remember I actually went to the old Weber Library back when I was little, and it was upstairs at the bathhouse along with the swimming pool. And so it was important to me growing up here. I've tried to push the county board. I'm not going to say I'm going to try and cut off funds to the county if they don't do it, because that just hurts ourselves. That doesn't accomplish a lot. I'm the one that actually got it kept open during this time because they were going to close it. And when the city was going to transfer it to the county, I think it was McLaughlin was the leader on that from the county, and I told him I would try to hold up the transfer to the county if I couldn't get an agreement to keep Camden Library open. And in return for that, they didn't make the agreement, so, I've done an awful lot to keep it open in the meantime until they can decide what they're gonna do with it.
Thank you, Representative Muller. And last but not least, candidate Dave Younk.
I think we'd all agree that libraries are pretty incredible institutions. They give us a place to get knowledge, and in a tough economy, that knowledge is valuable. And when you're dealing with some members of our community that may not have internet access at home, that may not have a whole bunch of books around, that may not have the best technology at home, that library becomes even more critical to their ability to thrive, to their ability to make their way forward in this world. I see the representative's role in this, in many ways, to be a cheerleader, to be an advocate for North Minneapolis, and to use communication to solve this problem, to use their persuasive skills to bring the parties together to make this happen, because it is so valuable to this community. So I see the role as a bridge builder, someone that can help solve this problem so that we get a great library for our citizens.
Thank you, candidate Young. We're gonna move now to questions that the audience does have, and I will start with one, and the person put his name on it. I wonder if I should acknowledge him. Mark Cosmos.
If you'd like, I could even ask it in more
That's okay. Makeda's a stickler for housekeeping rules, and I really don't want to get in trouble tonight. So I will read the cards now, and you each have 1 minute to respond, okay? Why have construction workers from North Minneapolis mechanical trades not been allowed to apply for jobs on the Minneapolis School Headquarters building, the Twin Stadium, the Gopher Stadium, Minneapolis City Hall? And we will start with candidate Marcus Harcus.
That's a good question, and I don't have an answer. It doesn't sound right, but I'm just not aware of why they would be prevented from applying for those jobs. If these developments are happening near our community, people that are skilled and qualified should be able to apply and get some of them, especially considering how much unemployment we have here.
Okay. Candidate Jon Olson.
Well, this is the first I've heard of it, and thank you for bringing it up. I'm not aware that there's been limitations or people have been denied the process of applying for those positions and working on those projects. I don't know if it was the folks worked for a particular contractor that was not approved because of their hiring standards and who they have working for them, or if their bid just wasn't accepted because it didn't meet the requirements of the bid specification that was put out for the projects. That I don't know. But if you can enlighten us, I'm certainly willing to listen as to why that would be the case.
Well, again, I would love to like it, but I don't want to really violate the rules.
Yeah, we could, just, but, you know, I'm sure though afterwards, Mark, if you do want to, yeah, I'm sure, that's right. Afterwards, Mark will talk to each of you to fill you in on the details, but I do have to ask the question, okay? And so next is candidate Dave Young.
The issue is just plain simple. It's not right to do it that way, and if there are violations, we need to look into it and make sure that we're taking care of those and we're creating a system where they can't happen again. But it just highlights a little bit about the difference between the haves and the have-nots. The haves know how to get those jobs, and the have-nots are shut out of the system. And we need to get a more inclusive system where everyone has a chance at these jobs and everyone has the same opportunities for these things.
Thank you, candidate Young, and I will come down to Representative Joe Muller.
I'm not sure that, and I'll talk to Mark later, I've talked to you about this many times, but I didn't know that you were actually shut out from it. I think it's, I thought it was that the companies that got contracts with the local governments weren't open to the hiring, and that's something the local governments would have control over when they signed up a contractor. They could put that in as part of their specifications or something, to try and hire from that. I don't think that would violate any of the federal court rules on discriminatory quotas, because that's judging by an area. Now, they couldn't require, under a Philadelphia case, it's called the Camden case, they couldn't require a certain number from the area, but they certainly could push that. I've run into the issue, Sheila works and is nodding her head. Oops.
And because that question is quite involved, you all do have an opportunity to address Mark's question one-on-one if you like, okay? And last but not least is candidate David Boyd.
It's an issue that affects me every day as a contractor. We don't always get the information of what jobs are posted. That's the major problem. And if you don't know about the Minority Contractors Association, you're not going to get a chance to make the bid. So we need to inform our contractors here better of what's out there so they can apply, but we also need to make sure that they have the right training. Because a lot of these contractors won't take you if you don't have the right training. They don't want to put someone out there that's going to hurt themselves, period.
Okay, thank you, candidate Boyd. Next, what is your position on a constitutional amendment to require a supermajority to raise taxes? And Representative Muller, we will start with you and go back down.
Okay, horrible. Absolutely not. It's hard enough to raise taxes as it is because people don't like to pay taxes, but we have to keep the state functioning. That's called TABOR. And Colorado and California passed that, and they have the two most screwed up budgets in the country. So I think that there is not one chance in a million that I would vote for that.
Candidate Marcus Harcus?
I agree, that's utterly ridiculous. It's, those type of proposals are put out by people that are, anti-government and also anti-social. We wouldn't get anything accomplished with that type of stipulation.
Candidate Jon Olson?
I absolutely would not support that. I think that's a horrible idea. I'm not a huge fan of constitutional amendments, but I did testify many a times and worked hard to support the legacy amendment. I thought that was a great constitutional amendment. It was dedicated funding for our natural resources. It gave the citizens, the state of Minnesota, an opportunity to vote to pay more if they so chose. But I think limiting the ability of the government to raise taxes to meet the needs and deal with any deficits is an absolutely horrible idea. Like Representative Muller said, just look at California. It's a mess, and they are in serious, serious trouble. Minnesota is actually in fairly decent shape when it comes to the budget. The legislature and the governor worked hard to come up with some ways to keep us going, so.
Okay, thank you. Candidate David Boyd?
I would just have to agree with all three other candidates and leave it at that. I don't want to beat it to death.
Candidate David Younk?
This is a bad idea. On one hand, we don't want to legislate by referendum. That's a bad idea. People have told you about California, and we are frankly just better than that. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question. How would you address the foreclosure crisis in our community, and do you believe racial disparities have played a role? And we will start with candidate Dave Younk.
Number one, to address the foreclosure crisis, we have to get funding available for people to buy the houses. And where funding already is available, where we don't have to find new money, we have to use communication. We have to connect those people that want to buy the houses, that qualify for programs, with the programs that are there for them. That's the first part. And yeah, I think there is a racial component of it. I think that America, we have a lot of growth that we need to do in that realm, and we need to work to eradicate any sort of discrimination in that field.
Thank you. Candidate David Boyd?
It's a big issue that we deal in my community. The amount of homes that we have that are in foreclosure and people. It's an issue that on the board that I work with that we talk about consistently, trying to figure out ways of making an incentive of of bringing people to our communities. And I believe that giving the people the information and the resources they need, but also incentivizing, putting more money out there, in the fact that, you know, we put programs out there to where the people can come to us and we can bring the youth in that we have out there that are ready to buy, but who wants to move into a bad neighborhood? You know, who wants to move into an area that's falling apart and going away? I don't want to see our community turn into Detroit.
Okay. Candidate Jon Olson?
You know, it's a very complex issue. There's a lot of components that are gonna go into dealing with this very, very severe problem. One is lending. There has to be money available for people to buy foreclosed homes and to rehab those homes, but there also has to be a comprehensive housing policy that involves the state, the city, the county, all our units of government, and come up with a plan on how we're gonna revitalize North Minneapolis, how we're gonna make our housing stock even stronger. There's tremendous opportunities as well to go along with all the sadness and the heartbreak that's happened here. How do we make this a better community? How do we make it stronger? How do we make sure that we don't run into some of the same problems we have in the past? How do we make it attractive through our new housing that goes up? We have a lot of vacant lots in North Minneapolis, and vacant lots are not attractive to buyers. So we need to work with the city, work with the county, put up good homes that people want.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Marcus Harcus?
I think Minnesota needs to push the banks harder to establish some fair loan modification programs. There are a lot of people who've lived in their homes for years, and, you know, due to no fault of their own, the economy, they've lost their jobs and maybe gotten another job that pays a lot less, like me. And so, I think it's imperative that somehow we establish a way to write down all of these mortgages. If over half of the people are underwater on their properties, a lot of people are, you know, they're never gonna rebound from that. And to answer the question about the racial disparities, that's been proven. There's plenty of evidence that the majority of qualified African American and Latino homeowners who receive these predatory loans actually qualified for standard prime mortgages. So there needs to be further investigation. There are some attorney generals around the country who are looking into that, and we need to be on that bandwagon.
Okay, thank you. Representative Joe Muller?
Thank you. This is an area that I'm one of the leaders in the country on foreclosure issues. In fact, we had an enormous bill coming through here a few years, 2008, which was talked about all over the country, and it came out of what was called the Muller Foreclosure Working Group. We worked for about 6 months on it, and we have, according to national experts, some of the most progressive and protective laws on foreclosure of any state in the country. We also, with regard to racial disparity, there's no question. HUD had a study, 60% of African Americans who were put into subprime loans actually qualified for prime, and a guy that was on my working group at the university, Dave Crumps, found similar circumstances in Minnesota. I've got 2 bills in right now, couldn't get a hearing on them the last year, and I've got 6 more coming in on banks and the reality of it.
Okay, we have to stop. That's okay. The next question we have from our audience, and I will begin with candidate David Boyd. How would you complete the job of helping the tornado repairs restorations? So how would you complete the job of helping the tornado repairs and restorations?
Well, we've already identified the problems within the system that's broke. What we need to do is get out there as a community base and as a state leader and, you know, basically get out there and do the work. Find the resources to help your people rebuild. We've had a great opportunity here to change the look of North Minneapolis and to help get these homes rebuilt and done. Get them funding, whatever it takes. I mean, we missed out on the FEMA money, which I don't understand why, but if Southern Minnesota can get it, why can't we get it in the city? We were destroyed just like other places have. I just find it ridiculous.
Okay. Candidate Jon Olson?
Again, I think it comes down to a comprehensive plan, working with the city, working with the state and the county, all working together to come up with a good, solid plan to rebuild North Minneapolis. There's been a lot of homes that have been repaired. Some have been repaired and look beautiful. Others were repaired and unfortunately, folks went with contractors or were talked into contractors that did a poor job, that they're not gonna have a quality repair and they're gonna have a lot of serious issues down the road. There's still some homes there that need to be repaired. There's homes that people have walked away from, and we need to address that situation, and we need to get those homes down as quickly as possible if they're abandoned and walked away from, and start the healing process. But it really comes down to a comprehensive plan on what we want to do here and how we want to rebuild the north side.
Thank you. Candidate David Younk?
I think we need a round 2 on recovery from the tornado. There's too many houses out there that are still with blue tarps, and we know those, come spring, those houses are gonna come down. A house can't last that long. We've got too many people that were shut out of the recovery process, or they had a bad hand handed to them. I think we need to coordinate a plan from working with people from the Fed through the state and down to the city to come up with the right way to deal with this. Last week, I was at a breakfast with minority contractors who told me about how they were shut out of the recovery process. They fully expected and were fully qualified to show up and play their part, and they were locked out. I think this is a great opportunity to bring the community and the craftsmen and the people that need the jobs and put them to work rebuilding North Minneapolis, and to do it right this time.
Thank you. Representative Joe Mullery?
Well, I agree that FEMA, we wanted it, but most of the places in the state didn't get it. I looked into that, and Wadena and other ones that were very hard hit didn't get the FEMA for the individuals. Believe me, I pushed on that. I also got the Republican chair of the committee at 11:15 on a Friday night, finally gave in and agreed to $4 million for our individual homeowners on the north side. And then unfortunately, Dayton's Minnesota Housing Finance Agency turned that program down. The city had come in with a request for $4 million for individuals, plus their $4 million that we got. I was the one that also got the $4 million through Dayton for the city, so that didn't go on the property taxes. His commissioner was gonna turn it down, but I had the facts, I've done my research and got it through. We still have, I'm hearing secondhand problems with insurance companies, contractors, and banks. We can't do anything about banks. I had been told that the city was gonna have,
We ran out of time. I'm sorry. I really am, but we have to be cognizant of the time. And last but not least, candidate Marcus Harcus.
First of all, I'm waiting for us to disagree on something. It hasn't happened yet.
I think it's coming though.
Yeah, it's coming. I also agree that it was a travesty that we didn't get the federal disaster declaration. It was there to get individual homeowners their money. I also agree that we need the different levels of government to come up with some creative solutions to produce the resources for people to repair their homes. And I want to introduce a disagreement here. I think that the voters should be a little more sophisticated and not just take the word of politicians who take credit for every single thing and declare that they're the best in the country on a certain issue. Because if you talk to some of their colleagues within the same caucus, you'll find out that these claims are just not completely true. You know, you may not even be the best leader on foreclosures in the district, let alone the nation.
Thank you, candidate Marcus Harcus. The next question, and we will begin with you, candidate Dave Younk. And I'm hoping I'm reading this correctly. I think I know who wrote this. But here's the question. Please discuss your stance on the proposed light rail transit, the Botany Transit Way line. And how will your work gain benefits to SD 58 residents, 58A residents?
They need to be signed.
I know,
I wrote.
I know it, I knew it, I just didn't want to say it. I know just right.
As a whole, light rail is a good thing for North Minneapolis. It takes and gives a good transportation solution to the people that need it the very most. What I will do is work to make sure that in some form that North Minneapolis and Senate District 58 says yes in some form to this transportation solution. Because we can all look a little bit west of us, and we know that Robbinsdale and Golden Valley, if they're asked, they will nod and they will say, yes, give us this good transportation solution. So I will work to find the right solution for the people of North Minneapolis for the light rail transport, because that should be a part of our transportation web.
Thank you, candidate Dave Young. And Representative Joe Muller?
Well, for 58A, I think that there's a possibility that we could get a business node or more, at least one business node that would help us on our economic development for business. So I'd like to see a way figured out how we could route it through one of our business corridors. I actually thought that the county was a little ahead of things on ruling out the possibility of coming across Broadway from Lindale with it, much like what's going on University and St. Avenue in St. Paul. That would have helped a lot of business development, I think, or at least given a chance for business development through there. But we have to look at how can we help the most on the residents of the north side. And right now, I'm not even sure if we're going to have very good access if it goes out through far into Golden Valley and Robbinsdale.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Marcus Harcus? I can repeat the question to you if you want me to.
If you'd be so kind.
All right. It says, please discuss your stance on the proposed Botany Transway line, and how will your work, if elected, how will your work gain benefits? I mean, how would it benefit, what benefit would it bring to Senate District 58A residents?
Okay. Well, I definitely support light rail transit coming through North Minneapolis. I want to be sensitive about how it would impact residents. You know, I am very sensitive about displacing people that want to live here. But it should be obvious that there are economic development impacts that will benefit the A and B side. And I think what's good, even if the majority of the route cuts through the B side, what's good for B is definitely beneficial for A. It will improve property values, which we're in desperate need of, and it can also foster business development. So we definitely need it. And last but not least, we have a lot of people in this community who are transit dependent. And I don't know if you're like me, I can't really afford to fill up my gas tank too often. So we need more efficient mass transit.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Jon Olson?
Public transportation is essential for the success of our community. It really is part of the fabric. We have to make sure that we enhance public transportation, we make it accessible, we make it safe, it's clean. It gets people to where they need to go. My mother, she doesn't drive, she relies on public transportation or Metro Mobility, one of the two, whichever she can get a hold of and works for where she's going. But we also have to be careful as we look at light rail and it comes through our community that it doesn't have a negative effect. It doesn't destroy part of the fabric of the community. When they put that freeway in, just over here, it devastated parts of North Minneapolis. And we have to make sure that we learn from our previous mistakes as far as transportation goes, to make sure that we enjoy the benefits and we don't damage our community by just running it through, because that appears to be the best way to go.
Thank you. Candidate David Boyd?
I support it highly. One reason is we look at the Hiawatha line and how it's improved that corridor greatly. It would be wonderful if we could get it into our communities. It would make it very strong for our businesses because it would showcase us. I consider this area as, certain people on the board that I work with also consider it as the gateway to the city. And that would be just a great, movement for us, because public transportation is important. I have family members that use it consistently. I love using it going to the airport. It's cheap. Instead of spending $35, I spend $5. take the bus, go downtown, take light rail, and it's quick. You know, there's no hassle.
Okay, thank you.